At the top, a man remains in the hospital tonight with what we are told are self-inflicted injuries after he had been served an arrest warrant by officers on the city's south side. What we know so far in tonight's top story.
It happened around 9:30 this morning at the Copper Ridge Apartments on South Staples Street off Saratoga. According to Sheriff John Hooper, the 22-year-old man had a warrant for aggravated assault. Deputies had information that the man was at the apartments but was not at his home. The team surrounded the building before knocking on the door, and after the suspect opened the door, authorities say he ran from the apartment and shot himself in what appears to be a suicide attempt. He is currently being treated for serious injuries.